I don't know why this screen freezes.
I was
All
trying to.
right, we're gonna get this going here shortly.
And she should be grabbing them.
All right, a nice turnout here.
Okay,
This
the
is
Cubs-
something that are you bringing up the Cubs already, Dave?
Well, I'm just curious, do they play today? I'm not sure. I've kind of lost track of it.
I believe they do play today. I believe they do. So it's I don't know if that's going to help people's health or not, but the Cubs do play today. So I do want to welcome everybody to a webinar update that we have never done before. This will be something fun. We are recording this. So this is something that if you have to skip out or you want to go back and rewatch something, you are more than welcome to do so. This is Dave Wiley. A lot of you know on this call, Dave has been our resident Medicare expert since my father turned 65, and he's now 72. And we were introduced to him when we were searching for anybody that was knowledgeable on Medicare that we could actually refer our clients to, and we've couldn't be happier. We've been referring everybody and anybody who becomes Medicare age to Dave and his wife Lori for many years. They've spoken to a lot of you have seen them speak at some of our events at the Morton Arboretum. And I was talking to Dave it was a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, and he said, there are so many changes coming this year to Medicare. We have to get it out to everybody. And we said a webinar is the best way to do this. So before we get going here, I'm going to try something new. We're going to do a poll, and you should see a poll pop up on your screen here. And the questions just says, are you currently enrolled in Medicare? And I want to get people answering here, and we can't see who answers what, I don't think. But this gives everybody a sense of, gives Dave a sense of who he's talking to. So nice. We're up to 80% participation on this. When you make the questions really easy, I guess people answer it. So Dave, the people on this call, just so you have a feel for it, we're at 91% here. 47 of them are already enrolled in Medicare, and 10 of them have not. And so the vast majority here, Dave, are already enrolled in Medicare. Now, throughout today, I'm going to turn this over to Dave here in just a second, but down at the bottom, you do have a Q&A section where you can click in there, you can ask a question, and everyone should be able to see the answer. If it's an important question that Dave will answer later, we might just kind of pass on it. Lori's sitting there; she'll be answering questions, and she knows what Dave's covering as well. So, we'll get that. We'll make sure all those questions get answered. So, and also, just so you guys all know, at the end, you will have a chance. Actually, at some point, you'll have a chance if you just want to talk to Dave. He has graciously offered a 30-minute consultation. We'll be sending that link out to you in the follow-up email after this. So, do look forward to that. Now, this is important to us all the time because a lot of you have heard us talk about the Own Your Retirement planning process. And we think when, especially you get to retirement, you have the ability for the first time of your life, but also the responsibility to take ownership and control of your entire financial situation. And healthcare and your Medicare is a major component to that. And while we'll help you with pretty much all the other areas, we are not experts when it comes towards all the different nuances to Medicare. And we are lucky enough to have Dave for that. So with that, Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of run with it from here.
Cool. Let's see, make sure we can get onto the PowerPoint. And I think we are good to go. Can you see that, Josh? We're up?
You look good.
Up and running. First and foremost, thank you, Josh, your team. You guys are great. We've worked with you for years. It's always interesting. We work with a lot of financial planners, and not many of them take a holistic approach that you see at FSR, where it's not just about your deposits and the money that you have. It's a much more all-encompassing view of what's necessary in the world of retirement. And when it comes to Medicare, That's our lane. That's all we do. We don't do annuities or life insurance or long-term care. Medicare keeps us plenty busy with 10,000 baby boomers a day turning 65. We have a team based here in Lisle. We're still kind of old school, prefer a handshake across a desk as opposed to Zoom meetings, but sometimes Zoom has their place. It's just an awful lot of marketing in the world of Medicare is from people that approach you from Florida or from Texas or any of these online people. We try to be a little bit more personal than that. The cornerstone of our business has always been education. We know an awful lot of people that come to Medicare and they don't make fully informed decisions. That is a mistake. We'd like to make smart choices from the get-go and not find out 10 or 12 years later that maybe you didn't choose as wisely as you should have. This is something we like to look at on a regular basis. It's not something you have to look at every day of every month, but 10 minutes a year, once you're in this, to kind of kick the tires, make sure you're where you need to be. We do deep dives on Medicare as far as the basics. We didn't want to really get to that today. We'll go over the treetops really quickly, but if you wanted to really get into with the seminars we do at libraries, these will typically go an hour and 45 minutes, question after question. We got 3 more coming up next week, and then we have to shut it down because we enter into this time frame known as the annual election period. That's from October 15th to December 7th, has us jumping. We'll be here 6 days a week, going every hour on the hour, trying to help our current clients and anyone who's new to the world of Medicare. If you're new to Medicare or you haven't gotten there yet, you'll want to know that you are looked after by the new sheriff in town is Medicare. And it's a very, very good program. It's just got some complexities that you aren't fully prepared to take care of based upon your experience with an employer plan. They had made all the decisions for you. Now you get to make decisions, but you don't have to do it alone. There's a great publication called Medicare and You. There's a great 800 number, 1-800-Medicare. They're there 24 hours a day at this point to help people make fully informed decisions and possibly if they need to change their coverage to find out about that. The book, the phone number, buttressed by a great website, Medicare.gov, not Medicare.com. That's a sales site. But this idea that you can get totally geeked up on Medicare here, and we'll use this a lot at this time of year because every year during that annual election period, you have the right to shop your drug program to see if there's a better opportunity for you for the next year. We really need folks to do that, not only here at Medicare.gov, but also on our website, MedicareSolutionsNetwork.com. We have a tool there to help people analyze their drug programs. And that's what we try to do is stay in touch through the years. Briefly, what is Medicare? Well, it's the insurance program for folks over 65, but cut to the chase. What isn't Medicare? Well, Medicare isn't everything because original Medicare was never designed to cover 100%. As a result, anyone in the world of Medicare has exposure, things that they need to be responsible for, understanding that Medicare does not pay everything. Journey would begin with Medicare, A and B forming the foundation. A and B very good, but not complete. And A and B have enrollment windows. So if you haven't come to Medicare yet, note that 3 months before you want to start Medicare, that's when the process begins with the folks at Social Security. There's no Medicare offices. It's all done through Social Security. We can assist, but the idea that A and B, not complete, A has no premium, but B does have a premium. I know Josh and his team are painfully aware of this, where the government is very excited to participate in your success. And the base premium this year in 2025 is $185 per person per month. Everything in the world of Medicare is done individually. This idea that that base premium could go higher based upon your income. This thing's called IRMA, your income-related monthly adjustment amount. It's based upon your income, but it's always a 2-year look back because in 2025, they can only see your 24 returns. 24 returns actually report what you made in 2023. Be aware of your 401k Roth conversions, sales of stock, things that could be boosting your income this year, and that'll show up in what you pay for Medicare 2 years further down the road. That's why you use an air traffic controller like Josh and his team to see it coming far in advance. All the numbers I'm showing you here today are 2025 numbers. We have yet to see the 2026 numbers, but everything that we've been told is that these numbers, we believe these brackets and these numbers of what you pay will be going up approximately 12% for 2026. We won't see those exact numbers probably till the middle of November, but we used to hear that there were two things in life that were certain: death and taxes. Actually, there's three: death, taxes, and the rising cost of health expenses, right? So you'd get your Medicare, you'd be starting here, you'd have A and B, that would form the foundation. You'd look at two different pathways to travel, one pathway called Original Medicare, one pathway called Advantage. This A and B, that's between you and the folks at Social Security. We don't do that. We'll coach you up. We'll cheer you on from the sidelines, but this has to be done through the folks at Social Security. And then once you realize it's not complete, all this other stuff is where we play. And the government knows Medicare's not fully functional, fully complete, and they will allow private insurance companies to offer additional coverage to round it out, to make it more robust. This stuff is where Lori and I and my team play, helping to find the right product mix that makes sense for your particular situation, which could be completely different from your spouse's situation. The beauty of Medicare, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I agree it's confusing because it's got a lot of moving parts that you might not be familiar with, but the beauty of it is it's totally customizable to what you need it to be, and it can change through the aging process. And it does indeed change. Quickly, Cliff Notes version. A, all of your buildings, never designed to cover 100%, but these buildings have co-payments: the hospital, the skilled nursing, hospice. A, no premium for A, but there's exposure that you would want to know in depth, and we can review that for you and beat it to death further down the road. We'd spend 20 minutes on this at the libraries. Part B, B does have a premium. The reason B has a premium, it's doing the heavy lifting. B is all of your services. So we say, from a simplistic standpoint, A is all the buildings, B is everything that goes on inside those buildings. All of these services have an annual deductible. Once you've met that deductible, there's an 80-20 split, with Medicare picking up 80% of your charges here, but holding you responsible for an unlimited percent. And 20% of a lot can be a lot. So we always look to possibly augment what you get with Original Medicare with additional coverage. A and B, good but not complete, looking at this pathway called Original Medicare. When Medicare moves into primary position, you have the largest network you could possibly have. Any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States or its territories, they take Medicare, you're in. But because it's not complete, we'd want to pick up additional coverage to flesh that out, to make it possibly more robust. And these are called Medicare supplements. They're brought to us by private insurance companies. They are currently under tremendous pressure, and we will see some changes to this landscape coming up in 2026 that could be very beneficial if you're already in Medicare. Certainly, if you're coming to Medicare, you want to know those rules of engagement. The beauty of supplements is that Medicare is calling the tune here, not the insurance companies. If you're in the under 65 market, you know already you cannot make a direct comparison between products. Humana does something different than Aetna, which is doing something different than Blue Cross, and United Healthcare has different networks. Medicare does not play that game. Medicare says, you want supplements, this is how the companies are allowed to sell them. Medicare has base benefits that are good, not complete, and then offers packages of benefits to make it more complete. And insurance at its base is pretty simple. It's a sharing of risk. And the more you want insurance companies to do, they are happy to do it, but the more the insurance companies do, the more they're going to charge. And that is a rule of insurance. And it's a rule that dominates our landscape. And we see packages of benefits, and it has not changed. The same top three, or the same top three since 2020, since 2010 was the last time we adjusted these things. And this is a good example of the cross ideas of maximum coverage or more minimum coverage leading to lower premiums. The F and the G and the N, standardized packages of benefits. That means we've got 44 companies that offer N. They're all doing exactly the same thing because Medicare says what N is, and Medicare is the network. You just need to ask, does your doctor take Medicare? These packages run the gamut. F, for years, very popular because it was very simple to understand, covered everything. No deductible, no coinsurance, no copayments. As long as you fill out that check every month, makes it all go away. And for years, we pointed out to people G was a better alternative. G that simply asked you to pay one thing out of your pocket, that Part B deductible. We said this year that's $257. But just paying that simple deductible lowered your premiums hundreds of dollars. And in fact, the government finally agreed with us back in 2020. They no longer even sell F to new enrollees. That means peril for anyone you know that's in an F supplement. Because what happens here is you are never singled out for a rate increase. Your claims are shared by everyone in your pool. As that pool with F is no longer accepting any new young healthy people into that pool is getting older and sicker and older and filing more and more claims. As a result, you're never singled out for a rate increase, but your claims are shared by everyone in your pool. These F rates are going through the roof, and there is opportunity to get out of F. We have the ability to move you, possibly to G. Pick up the deductible, possibly save hundreds of dollars in premiums every year because you made one simple move. If your health is reasonably good, you might be entertained by N. N is in Nancy. Nancy asks you for more participation to drive down your premiums. N says not only will you pay that Part B deductible, but after that, where G has you walking away, N says no, you'll also agree to doctor copayments. $20 to see a doctor, $20 to see a specialist, $50 if you go to the emergency room and they send you home. That would lead to lower premiums because you've accepted more responsibility in the relationship. And I use this way too much. It's a very blunt instrument, but what it does is it gives me mathematics. It gives me numbers. I can't account for peace of mind. I can't account for your prior experience with insurance companies, but I can sure show you numerically N makes very good sense for anybody that's not going to the doctor more than 25 times a year. That could make a lot of sense for a lot of people. We've run into many people through the years that are overinsured. They have the F, they don't understand why the rates are going up. Maybe they're even in the G, realizing that maybe they don't need that robust a coverage, possibly move to the N. There's also a high deductible option that is growing in popularity. Many people come to the world of Medicare. They've come off of their group coverage, and their group coverage has an out-of-pocket maximum of several $1,000s. It's not unusual. There's a high deductible supplement that says once you have incurred $2,870 in expenses, after that, everything's covered 100%. That can make sense and dramatically lower your premiums. And we do, in fact, see the people possibly moving down and downshifting through the years because the premiums get so expensive. That Medicare landscape has taken a beating in the last couple of years because there was an awful lot of utilization that was held off on. During COVID, nobody even went to the grocery store, much less to the doctor. And there was a tremendous backlog of dermatological checks, colonoscopies, knee replacements, didn't even go for a physical for 2 years. Those people have come out of the woodwork. And again, remember, we're not singling you out for a rate increase, but your pool has been showing up in droves to the doctor's office. We've seen some of the highest rate increases in the last 2 years. We actually had this year, one of our favorite companies took a 40% rate increase, breathtaking, very disappointing. And we're responding to that by rewriting those clients or moving those clients or looking at alternatives because the pressure on these companies has been severe. They're simply paying the claims. One of the things that's going to change here in Illinois in 2026, they're bringing on board what's called the birthday rule. If you're already in Medicare, you really want to pay attention to this because it could be a golden opportunity. That law says that if you're with a company and you want to change your supplement, there's no underwriting and you're able to change that supplement within that company. If they've got a better rate, maybe you move from G to N. There could be any number of opportunities. Maybe you move from N to high deductible, but that birthday rule is going to kick in here in January, and we will be seeing a lot of people. One carrier in particular, Mutual of Omaha, has several different books of business, and we're going down the rabbit hole. But what they do is they bring out a new book about every 5 years. Well, if you're in one of their old books, they're not adding any new young healthy people into your pool. That's driving rate increases. And you used to be stuck in that pool. But now with the birthday rule, you could move from that older book of business to their newer, less expensive book of business. And we'd love to talk to you about that. That's going to be very good news for many people that are in these Medicare supplements. And unfortunately, what we do see is with these higher claims, we're driving the smaller companies out of the market. They can't withstand the claims that are being filed. And in fact, we've seen several companies here that have dropped out of the market. As a result, we see this more and more business spread among fewer companies. I think that's bad for business. I know that monopolies don't typically get us our best rate. I would favor many more companies in this marketplace beating each other over the head to win your business. But at this moment in time, it looks like the big carriers are the ones that are moving forward. Lori, did you get any questions? Uh-oh, can't hear Josh.
I'm unmuting. Okay. Yeah, we did actually. We got some questions about creditable coverage and whether or not when you when you turn 65, if you're still working, do you have to turn on Medicare Part B? And I made a comment about how that is one of the uninformed or one of the misinformed decisions that people will make. In fact, just this week, I had a woman, she's 80, her husband is 77. He is retiring for the first time. They have been on his coverage through work. And what I found out from her is that they both turned on their Medicare Part B and have been paying those Part B premiums since they turned 65. That is money that they flushed down the toilet because they never needed to do that. And too many people get berated by their friends and family. Oh my God, you're turning 65. You've got to do something. There could be penalties. There's not, as long as you've got creditable employer coverage. I mean, you know, we talked to some people who even with employer coverage decide to move to Medicare because it's a better financial deal. But just the act of turning 65 does not require people to turn on Medicare A and B. And you certainly wouldn't want to be paying for two coverages. There's absolutely no financial reason. And in fact, it confuses things more than helps things.
Yeah, and
I'm in the midst of replying to a very specific comment about Aetna Medicare Advantage. Maybe you can address that when you get to the Advantage thing.
we sure will.
And then, does birthday mean my actual birthday? Yes. So what the rule in Illinois stipulates as of January of 2026, the day of your birthday and 45 days past that, that is your window within which you can change your Medicare supplement with no medical questions. So if you're someone who's, and so here's the concern from the insurance company standpoint, right? If you're somebody who's going through cancer treatment, historically, you've not been able to move your supplement because one of the questions is about, are you currently being treated for cancer? Well, now you can. And you can qualify for a rate that could be $50 to $100 less than you're paying. And yet the insurance company is still going to be paying on those high claims. So because the insurance companies know that now they're going to have to accept high risk people for lesser rates, the rates generally, our fear is that they're just going to continue to go up as a result of this rule. So, you know, the unintended consequence, the soundbite that you're going to hear on the news sounds great for consumers, but the unintended consequence of that is that it's just generally going to drive rates higher. And in California, where they've had this rate for where they've had this birthday rule for a number of years, rates are on average $100 to $150 more per month for the exact same product that exists here in Illinois. So that's a considerable rate increase that scares us.
Yeah, and we kind of felt like that was the company this year that took the 40% rate increase. They were doing that to get ahead of the curve. And our fear is that we will continue to see upward pressure on Medicare supplements, but understanding that you have the opportunities to move. In most states, if you want to change your supplement, you've got to get through medical underwriting. In Illinois, and we always joke, two words you don't often hear in the same sentence. In Illinois, we have a blessing, and we've got a Medicare supplement company that does not ask medical questions. And we're working with people every week who don't understand why their F rates have gotten so high. They know they can't move because they've got some sort of pre-existing condition. And the answer is no, you really can move to a company that would offer you any of these products without underwriting. It really is a wonderful tool. Not available in most states, but in Illinois it is. A and B good, but not complete. We'd pick up a Medicare supplement. Not unusual. Dad likes the N, mom wants the G. Remember, totally customizable as an individual. You know, we talked about this idea of the creditable coverage and do we activate our Medicare right away? Sometimes with a married couple, it makes sense to split the couple. He's going to keep working. He's going to stay on the employer plan, but we could break off the spouse. Most people would look at what they pay for their employer coverage and it's $600 a month. That's obviously $300 each. No, it's not. They love him. He works there. He's like $100. The spouse is paying $500. The ability to look at that analytically and potentially move the spouse, get better coverage, any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States, get a lower out of pocket, $257 annual deductible, and lower their rates. And that's why we're always coaching people, be ahead of the curve. Right now, the 3 months before you turn 65, you're in the zone. People want to know when should we talk? We're saying anytime you feel your blood pressure going up, you certainly want to be at least 6 months out, knowing what that landscape is going to look like when you get there. A and B good, but not complete. Pick up a supplement to complete this pathway called Original Medicare. We'd certainly need a drug program. The drug programs, all again, under the watchful eye and very short leash of the folks at Medicare. It used to be people would pass on taking a drug program because they weren't taking anything. And most of the drug programs were $25 to $35, $45 a month. I'm not going to pay that. I don't even need drugs. And they would incur a late enrollment penalty. This annual election period, I know we're going to see her again. We see them every year. The poor woman who now has found out she doesn't have a drug program and now she needs to start taking Eliquis. Well, Eliquis is about $700 a month, and there's no getting around it. There's no generic. GoodRx isn't going to help you. And now she decides she wants to get a drug program. Well, because the husband didn't take one, she didn't take one, and that was 17 years ago. She would have a penalty, but we could still enroll her during this annual election period. These days, there's multiple plans out there this year that have no premium. Zero premium for the drug program. So it's foolishness not to take a drug program just as a placeholder. Because if you don't have a drug program and you don't have the creditable coverage that Lori was talking about, an employer plan, you could incur a penalty. All the drug programs, you become a free agent every year during the annual election period. It's right around the corner, October 15th to December 7th. Now, these drug programs will be different. And in fact, this year there's 15 of them, and they run the gamut from literally a zero premium drug program all the way up to one this year that's $125 a month. Well, my goodness, what's the difference? Well, 15 different plans, kind of like 15 different restaurants covering 15 different menus of drugs. The goal is to find the program that covers your drugs for the least expensive amount for the course of the year. That's why we do these checkups. Every drug program is going to have a menu, and that menu is going to be divvied up between generic drugs, very inexpensive, newer generic drugs. But then you run into brand name drugs. We call those tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Here we'd be talking about any of the statins, any of the blood pressure drugs, levothyroxine, metformin. There's dozens of them that are very inexpensive and in fact would be a zero copay. But then you start stair-stepping up to newer generics will have a higher copay. But tier 3, 4, and 5, we always say that's stuff that's advertised on TV. And it can be breathtakingly expensive. That Eliquis is $700 a month. That's chump change when you get down here into tier 4 and tier 5. We had a client in here earlier this week take something called Inlyta. And it's always a bad situation. When it's a med I've never heard of before. Inlyta, we looked it up, retails for $21,000 a month. Crazy. But there was a drug program that covered it. It was a blessing. It was actually went from terrifying to actually very good news. But these drug programs as well have changed over the last couple of years. A couple of years ago, there was the Inflation Reduction Act that put some new parameters on these drug programs. One of the most important parameters from the consumer standpoint is now they've put in a maximum out of pocket. We never had that before. We used to have this thing called the coverage gap or the donut hole. You might hear your parents or grandparents lamenting that very, very idea that there was a part of their program that literally they were paying virtually everything out of pocket. Well, that stopped. The Inflation Reduction Act put in a cap, a maximum out of pocket. Your co-payments can be no more than $2,100. That doesn't include the premium cost. But what you'd have is with most of these programs, for example, the gentleman on Enlita, he gets to that $2,100 in the very first month, pays off his deductible, pays off the balance of the $2,100, and that in a dark space was a moment of light where you could see that $24,000 worth of drugs that he's getting for $2,100 for the year. That's a wonderful thing, but there's no action without a reaction, and the reaction from the insurance companies has been twofold. One, the price of these programs has started to escalate. And we see for next year, an example, the program that was the best program this year, more often than not, was $81 a month. If you were taking tier 3, tier 4, or tier 5 drugs, that best program that treated those meds most favorably was $81. For 2026, that's going up 30%. It's going to be over $105 a month. We see upward pressure on the premiums because they have to absorb those costs. The other thing that they've done, which is very unfortunate from our perspective, is they've stopped paying agents to write the drug programs, which leaves an awful lot of people floundering, trying to figure out what the best drug program is for the next year. We see in 2005, we actually had robust competition. It was a beautiful thing. We had 43 carriers, and most of them were offering at least 2, if not 3 plans. Fast forward, in 2025 now, we have only 7 carriers, and most of them are only offering 1 or 2 plans. This idea that competition is starting to narrow. The big players remain, the small players are getting crushed. That leads to more of a monopolistic situation. Don't like that. I'd rather see more competition, not less. We have 1 carrier now that pays commissions and the rest don't. That means a lot of agents who have been doing what we do for a living are starting to drop out of the market. We're still here. We're still shaking hands. We're still working with our people and looking to add new clients. But a lot of agents won't even return phone calls about the Part D drug prescription. That's kind of dirty pool, but it's what's going on in the marketplace because they're not getting paid. When Inflation Reduction Act kicked in, as we said, that shifted quite a bit of the burden onto the carriers. Their response has been to slash commissions and raise rates. And we saw a definite delineation between the program that was great for generics and the program that was great for brand name drugs. And the one that was great for brand name drugs, I think they got hammered because they, about halfway through last year, they stopped paying commissions. And we saw a news article last night, the president of Cigna Corporation was explaining one of the drivers to these increases in cost of healthcare. He's saying that 10% of the drugs that are offered are costing them 80% of the claims that are paid. That means these drugs, this Inlita, these are miracle drugs, but miracles don't come cheaply. And if you're healthy, you're helping to offset that blessing for that gentleman, but the upward pressure in our industry on the drug programs is undeniable and continues to move forward. We'll help you. We've got a website that we have that helps people look through the drug programs and find the best alternative. You've got Medicare.gov where you can research this stuff. And it's important to keep it on a short leash because people don't understand. They make one decision, they throw it in the drawer, and we'll catch people that haven't looked at their drug program for 7, 8, 9 years. It's crazy, and I know why you took the drug program you took 7 years ago, because you were taking 2 brand name drugs. So you were paying $40 a month. Well, here we are 7 years later, that $40 now is up over $100. And meanwhile, your 2 brand name drugs have gone generic. You don't need a $100 drug program. You need to be much more well-served with a better tool. And that's what the annual election is for, to be able to make those changes. Lori, questions on drug programs?
No questions on drug programs at this point.
Cool.
Um, but I know that there's a couple of folks on this call that are current clients. And one of the things that I would tell them is that it would be helpful to use our findmypartd.com tool, rather than use medicare.gov to do that analysis on Part D. Reason being, even though we're no longer getting any commissions to assist you in that area, we're more than willing. And by using that tool, we can see what you've done. So if you have some basic questions, we can just do an easy answer. The problem is, if you have any questions, if you go to medicare.gov, then you're having to deal with the 1-800 Medicare folks. And you have to deal with them directly. So we don't mind assisting people, as long as you've done the heavy lifting, entered your drugs. But if you've got some weird questions or you've got a really complicated drug list, by using our site, we can see what you've done and advise you a little bit more easily.
Yeah, what you get at Medicare.gov is the ability to enter your meds, and as long as you know how the tool works, it works pretty good. But if you don't know how it works, to Lori's point, on our website, MedicareSolutionsNetwork.com, under the Resources tab, we have a tool. It's called FindMyPartD.com, and it's got a video that will walk you through every step. I think it makes it a lot more user friendly.
Mhm.
I'm frustrated by the industry because we have lots of clients in their upper 80s, 90s. I think the record right now, we currently have a woman who's over 100. These aren't people that are adroit at the computer. They don't have a smartphone. They don't really want to call an 800 number, and we feel obligated to help them, and we will. But for most folks, it's pretty easy to figure out. And if nothing else, meet us halfway. Enter in your medications exactly the way they appear on your bottle. We had one gentleman who flipped out. He had entered levothyroxine, which is a very inexpensive tab, but he put in capsules. And that was a difference between a zero copay and thousands of dollars. Got to make sure you enter the information correctly. But if you do, we'll certainly help you understand that as well. A and B good,
Uh,
but not complete. But
Yeah.
Dave, just so people know, on the email that we sent out at the end, we will include the link for this too. I know somebody asked in the questions, and Lori put the answer in there, but we'll make sure you guys have the link for the drug program that they have. So,
Yeah, and
thank you.
there's two ways to get to it. They can go to our website and then go to the Find My Part D tab, or they can just type in their browser, findmypartd.com. I would tell anybody, don't do it now. Right now, not all the plans are there. October 15th hasn't even come yet. You can't do anything till October 15th. So you're going to get frustrated if you try to do it before then. And I also really recommend wait a week. Usually that first week, the sites are having lots of glitches because too many people, the traffic, too many people are trying to use it. So just kind of calm and you've got till December
We got
7th.
we got till December 7th. There should be a big exhale here because we got plenty of time. And we know, I mean, my goodness gracious, every other commercial on TV at this point is screaming at you about big changes to Medicare and your coverage could be in jeopardy. This is all scare tactics. It drives me crazy. The idea that these threatening ads that just spin people up, and it's very frustrating. It's very counterproductive. Take a deep breath. We've got plenty of time to be able to make changes if changes are necessary, and not necessarily just for the sake of an agent that's trying to write you with a different company to steal the commissions of what's going on. This A and B good, this pathway called Original Medicare, we love it because it's got maximum selection. It's got customizable drug offerings. It's got different levels of coverage with the supplements. They can be lavish or more Spartan depending on your specific situation. And then now we get into this world of Medicare Advantage. This is a different idea, a different landscape. If you were at our library seminars, I would tell you we hand out this roadmap, and I want you to take the pen we gave you and scratch out the word Medicare, because you got to understand Advantage is not Medicare. It is a Medicare replacement plan. So instead of Medicare being primary and the network that comes with that, and paying premiums to know that you're well covered. A lot of people have opted into this idea of Advantage. They've been tantalized by lower premiums, and indeed, Medicare Advantage will offer you, in most instances, a zero premium plan. Did you mean free? No, it's not free. You've still got to pay your Part B. You never get away from that. But that idea that you'd pay your Part B and the government is going to send that money and a bunch more to a private insurance company, and they can step in and run the show. This would look like, in practice, very similar to your employer plan. Think about that for a second. Your employer plan, where your employer plan has network restrictions. You've got to stay in that network, that PPO network. Could be Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Aetna. It's a network. So Advantage has network restrictions. That's not a bad thing. We've got an embarrassment of riches in Chicagoland, great medical groups. But that idea of network restrictions, and now on the Advantage program, you have an a la carte menu. We talked about the G as in golden supplement. Once you've paid a $257 one-time annual deductible, MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, iron lung, kidney transplant, 6 weeks in the hospital, all covered. Different on an Advantage program. You don't pay a monthly premium, but now every one of those instances has a copayment. It's not a bad thing. We just need to understand a primary is 5 or 10. A specialist could be 25. The emergency room was 140. The ambulance was 280. Nights in the hospital, copay, copay, copay. Just a different structure. Much more here, pay as you go, as opposed to pay up front. Different levels of comfort and confidence in what you have. What Advantage will do, it'll combine network restrictions and co-payments to drive your premiums down. Those co-payments will have a firewall, a worst case scenario, a maximum out of pocket. Remember, original Medicare does not. This original Medicare thing could run wild on you. If nothing else on Advantage, you've put in a firewall. That firewall will differ between an HMO where they can totally control you. You've got to keep everything with Advocate or everything with DuPage Medical Group or everything with Northwestern, or a PPO where you have a broader selection of doctors. But remember, anytime the insurance company does more, they're going to make it up someplace. And indeed, the out-of-pocket maximum on an HMO is much less than the out-of-pocket maximum on a PPO. But definitely worth looking at, definitely worth understanding, but understanding that they're different. We have this posted on our website, but it's just, if you talk to friends and they're going to tell you, I have a supplement and I pay nothing for it, there is no such thing. They have an Advantage program. And when you explain to them they have an Advantage program and they don't understand the difference, that's what terrifies us. You want to make fully informed decisions. The difference between the supplements and the Advantage are pretty marked, and you need to understand with an Advantage program, there will be more restrictive networks, has to be. If Medicare is any doctor, any hospital that takes Medicare, then an Advantage would be a subset thereof. They'll all have co-payments for services, but those co-payments can vary. An MRI might be $150 on one program. It might be $300 on another program. But the beauty is that Medicare forces these companies to lay their benefits out in exactly the same fashion. We can spread these out on the desk, and in pretty short order, we can show you that there's some definite changes on the Advantage landscape for this year that certainly make comparing what you have now to what's available now would be really a smart move. They'll all have capped exposure. One company, the out-of-pocket maximum on their PPO next year is $3,600. That's pretty reasonable. Another company, their out-of-pocket maximum on their PPO is $7,000. Well, if I have my choice on that, I probably want the one with the lower out-of-pocket. All of them will include a Part D drug prescription program bound right up in the chassis. Zero premium on the drug program as well, built into one card, one company running the show. And there can be sweeteners in those drug programs that can make them very attractive. Depending on what you're taking, we'd certainly want to see the difference between what would you pay for your drugs going with original Medicare, or what would you pay for your drugs going through an Advantage program. Worth checking. They're all available to us now during this annual election period, whether you're first coming to Medicare or you're already in Medicare and you're wondering, could that Advantage program makes sense. Maybe it does. And during the annual election period between October 15th and December 7th, you could try an Advantage program, and there's no medical underwriting. There's no questions. They don't even care if you're a smoker. They know the law of large numbers. The government is paying them a small fortune. They'll take all comers. They've already built the hotel. They just want to fill it with as many people as possible. Understanding you've still got to have A and B, still going to pay for that. You're going to have replacing original Medicare. You'll put that red, white, and blue Medicare card in the drawer. You'll only use your Advantage program. And don't think if they don't take your Advantage, if your doctor doesn't take the Advantage program that you're in, that you're going to use your Medicare card. No, they'll send you that bill back because you've gone with a private insurance company. They're available to us on a county by county basis. That means in Chicagoland, there's 54 of these to choose from. Get out to Grundy or McHenry, that number goes way, way down. These are based on the concept of maximum volume and major players in the major cities. And yes, it's true, Joe Namath wasn't lying to you when he started telling you on the TV commercials that they do include additional benefits, but understand the difference between a benefit and actual insurance. We hear frequently from people that have stumbled into an Advantage program without fully comprehending that the dental benefit was not the same as dental insurance. And if you listen to the commercials, you'll catch them. They're pretty cagey. But when they say dental, vision, hearing, get all the benefits you're entitled to, a benefit could be a couple of cleanings, maybe one filling. But you're thinking dental, you hear dental, you think dental insurance. No. They didn't say crown or root canal. They didn't say bridge. They didn't say implant. They said benefits. So be careful about that. But true, these programs will offer additional benefits, and some of them can be pretty robust, certainly worth checking on. Again, our landscape has changed dramatically because of that Inflation Reduction Act. That has affected the drug programs on the standalone and definitely affected the drug programs wrapped up in the Advantage programs. It's costing the Advantage programs more to bring that drug program to market. As a result, what they're doing is they're changing their rules of the game. With Advantage programs, every year you become a free agent. It would be silly not to at least check and see. And over the course of the 19 years that I've been in this business, there is a company that's hot for 2 or 3 years, and then they seem to take their chips off the table and they're happy making what they made. And a new company sharpens their pencil and comes to market. But every year, it's not unusual that we would change people's Advantage programs, usually every 2 to 3 to 4 years, because there's a better benefit package. And this year, there's clearly a better benefit package that we should be talking about. Service area reductions, well, if the company can't get critical mass, they're just not going to sell those products in that area. And in fact, United Healthcare got a black eye because they dropped 600,000 people in Advantage programs. Well, that sounds like a shocking number, but if it's spread over 50 states into very small pockets of areas where they decided they couldn't make a profit with their Advantage programs. And every year there's the song and dance between the carriers and the providers. And this year, we've seen Aetna has gotten into it with Endeavor, and it doesn't look like they're going to kiss and make up. It looks like Aetna will no longer have Endeavor plans available to the people that are there. There's another company now that's going toe-to-toe with the Dooley Medical Group and probably going to lose them. So it's very important to understand how these pieces are moving behind the scenes, but it's also important to know that the government's got your back. They protect you. Many people will refuse to look at what they have. It happens every year. Statistically, we know about 70% of seniors won't even revisit what they currently have, and they find out after the fact. And it used to be with Advantage, if you didn't make a decision before December 7th, if you waited till after that, you were stuck. And the program that you were in, you were committed to that for the next year. The government stopped that. And now we have January, February, and March of each year with an Advantage program. You can make a one-to-one change. One time, we call that the Medicare mulligan. You get a do-over. So even if you miss it, you still have opportunities because the government is there and they're protecting you. We've seen carriers eliminate commissions on certain plans. Again, a retrenching of my industry where I believe it will benefit us because we're here and many agents are starting to drop out of the market because of the reduction in commissions, the elimination of the Part Ds, and the fact that it's become a little bit tougher based upon what the government is doing to our industry. It is what it is. We'll deal with it, and we'd certainly love to help you with that. Questions
Yeah,
on Advantage?
I think the challenge just generally is that across the United States, there will be less people like us to
True.
help an ever aging population. And that's a concern.
Has to be, has to be. So, Josh, I think we're bringing it home here, which is kind of exciting. We kept it under 4 hours. I know you were concerned about having to buy everybody lunch. A and B is good, but A and B is not complete. We look to make it complete by adding a drug program and possibly a supplement. Those three pieces acting as your coverage. Not unusual. People would start here and years later discover that they're paying more in premiums than their worst case scenario in an Advantage program. So everything's on the table for discussion. I know Josh is going to open up the ability, and we could usually tell you, it doesn't have to be a half hour. We can usually tell you within 5 minutes, can we help you? Can we improve your situation? If you're with Medicare right now, it's worth taking a look. If you haven't come to Medicare yet, we would sure like an opportunity to earn your business. We're still old school. Love to have you by the office, whatever works for you. But we appreciate the partnership with FSR. Josh, you've been great, and thank you again.
Dave, thank you. In fact, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen here so I can take back control again.
Okay, well, let me see if I can do that.
Cursor down to the bottom,
Down to bottom, down to bottom. Which one?
and then click the share again.
I've got share up here.
Um,
Let me grab Taylor. Or Laura, can you jump over here?
I can pop over.
Please.
as he does that, I'm going to wrap up a few things here, and he can hear this. But he says something at the end, and there is a massive change occurring in the Medicare landscape, and it was hard enough for us to find somebody like Dave and Lori that could help our clients out. As they change the way people get paid, and um, it's going to become harder and harder to find good help. So, guys, I am grateful that you guys are still doing this. It's nice to have your expertise out there. So, we do have a few minutes for questions if people have one. I see one. You can put it in the chat, or if you want to click on the raise hand, I can let you guys talk too. I got one here, Dave, that says, "Can I switch from an Advantage plan to a Medicare supplement plan?"
Lori, you want to take that?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, you can, but you will be subject to medical underwriting questions. So that's always the
What
caveat.
state are they in, Josh?
Oh, that's a good
Uh,
question.
I'm not sure what state they're in. I'd have to look it up. I'm going to guess Illinois,
If
but
Yeah, if they're in Illinois, mortal lock, we can do that without medical underwriting. There's a company that will take them. If they're in other states, that rule becomes a little bit tougher because to Lori's point, you'd have to get through medical underwriting to be able to do that. So need to know a little bit more about the specifics, but the answer is yeah, typically you can make a move. It's tied to your medical history and or the state that you live in.
perfect. All right. Well, I'm not seeing more questions, and no one has clicked raise hand yet on me, so that's a good sign here. I will be sending out an email afterwards. Give us at least 24 hours to get this out. Our team is busy with all sorts of fun things, but Dave, Lori, I truly appreciate it. If people want to take advantage of giving you a call, I highly, highly encourage it. So, for everyone who's out there, thank you very much for joining us here, and we will talk to you the next time we do one of these wonderful educational events. So, thank you guys.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.